welcome to No Broken Legs. It is week 13 of the NFL season, and joining me to talk all things NFL is Jimmy Champ. Jimmy, how are you on this Friday night?
Man, I'm all right, man. Had kind of a foul week at work. Didn't bowl very well last night, so I'm in a bit of a foul mood, but hopefully talking some NFL can snap me out of it.
And what puts a lot of fans in a foul mood, just like you are tonight, Jimmy, is bad quarterback play. And we teased last week that we are going to talk about it, and we're just going to sprinkle that throughout the podcast because we were talking before the show, and like half the league's going to be looking for a new quarterback because their quarterback isn't very good.
Yeah, I mean, if you legitimately look at some of the names of starting quarterbacks this week, even playing against each other, these are guys probably not starting in the league next year.
Well, some of them are going to wind up starting because there's
Well,
32 jobs, and
that's true.
they're not going to draft 20 guys to start next year. It's kind of weird how many of these teams are just completely unsettled at the quarterback position, and most of it probably boils down to the guy we saw last night, Josh Allen, and the guy we'll see Sunday in a big matchup against the Bengals, Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I think teams are all chasing that guy, when in reality, if you build your roster from the inside out, you can win with an efficient game manager in this league, I think, right now.
Yeah, that's certainly been what we've seen during the course of the year. But it hasn't worked for everybody because the Cleveland Browns have had a pretty effective game manager, and they're 4-7 as the Jacoby Brissett era ends and the Deshaun Watson era begins.
Yeah, but the problem was there were too many instances where Kevin Stefanski wanted Jacoby Brissett to be a gunslinger instead of an efficient game manager, and that cost them some losses and then other things going on. But speaking, as we've talked about it, we're going to do our best to focus only on the football side of Deshaun Watson coming back to play with the Cleveland Browns. Evan and I are pretty much in unison on our feelings about Deshaun Watson as a human being and the entire situation. But for the case of this podcast and continuing to do what we do on No Broken Legs, we'll try our best to keep it strictly to football. If there is one place in the league where you would expect Deshaun Watson to feel at home and feel comfortable, it would be against the Houston Texans. In this game, you would think that he should be able to come out and play well in this game. And I think the Browns are going to need him to with the Ravens and Bengals on tap. I am very curious to see what the game plan looks like. We know that this Browns team right now, if Nick Chubb gets 20-plus carries a game, whether it's a meaningless stat or not, the Browns win football games. So I'm very curious to see what it looks like. All of the rumors are he's been practicing. He is in shape. He is ready to go. He's ready to put everything behind him and get back on the field. And I'm afraid if he doesn't look good in this game against Houston, of what it's going to look like against Baltimore and Cincinnati.
Deshaun Watson was clearly affected by the crowd in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way around it. I heard John McClain, the longtime Houston beat writer, he was on 92.3, and he talked about how nobody in Houston is giving a shit about this football team in weeks. And the stadium's going to probably be half Browns fans because that's what it's been for their last 3 or 4 home games. The opposing team has just come in and taken over their building. This is a bigger, I feel this is a telling moment for Kevin Stefanski as a coach.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people have questions about his ability to call the game and control the team. This seems like the type of game where Stefanski might get a little too pass happy, and that is one of his worst tendencies as a play caller. And just trying to make it so that Watson has a big game coming back instead of just having a solid game coming back where he's, the extra dimension that Jacoby Brissett does not have.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I just think, I'm all in on the Browns this week. I think you have to be able to win this game by more than a touchdown. So I don't have a problem with the Browns at -7.
Oh yeah, I never even did the.
Uh,
Let me run the numbers. Deshaun Watson is returning from his suspension because he acted in a predatory and egregious manner, and he is going to be in Houston, the team that covered for him when he was acting like that. I like just the absurdity of all of this, man. Like Cleveland Browns football just continues to get just more unbelievable.
yeah, and I think no, I mean I think you did touch on it. For the game in Jacksonville, like that's not going to stop this week. Maybe it might be one of the actual lesser weeks, but I don't know what the circus will be with Busby bringing a lot of the accusers to the game. I don't know what that's going to look like. I know what the crowds are going to sound like when you play in Cincinnati and Baltimore.
Yeah, those crowds are going to be those are going to be ugly, ugly crowds. There's going to be people with ugly signs that are going to get kicked out of the stadium.
Yeah, and the thing is, with his time in Houston, Deshaun Watson was never a vocal leader of the team. That responsibility was shouldered fully by J.J. Watt, which he was fine with. But I just wonder how Deshaun Watson is going to react to playing the villain and being super scrutinized and super criticized of how you quarterback a team with this much talent. And why didn't you do enough to win? You should be able to win with this roster. These are things he never had to worry about in Houston or deal with, and now he's going to have to. So, I mean, it's going to be crazy, but it needs to be good week one. Like this first week, it has to be good because games on the schedule that when we were predicting how the season would go, that we thought might have been easy games, now might not be as easy as we thought they were down the stretch. So this game against
it's so odd that the Browns are 7-point road favorites. Just that he hasn't played in 2 years, and I actually like the Browns here. I think the 7-point tease to make this a pick 'em with a couple games we'll talk about later, I think is a really good. I think those are really good 3-team teasers and some great parlays out there. The Texans have lost 6 straight games, man. They've been outscored by 73 during that stretch. They're a bad football team. They're a bad football team.
Yeah, but up until last week, they were still fighting. The team didn't appear to like the quarterback change of Kyle Allen. I don't know if he's any better than Davis Mills or not, but the team did not seem. I mean, it was the first game where most weeks they're going to lose because their roster isn't as good as other teams. But last week there was a lack of effort, a lack of discipline. Like the Browns have to be able to win this game by 2 touchdowns. Like they have to.
I would. This feels like one of those games where the Browns should just be able to give Chubb 20 carries, give Hunt 10, and then give Dearness Johnson half a dozen or so.
Right.
You could win that way. Like that's a way to win the football game. I don't think they're just going to do that. I think they're going to open things up a little bit. How open do you think they go with the playbook?
It wouldn't surprise me if Deshaun Watson threw the ball 60 times in this game.
I know that's the thing with Stefanski. Is he going to try and throw it 60 times and completely ignore Chubb? I mean, will it matter? I don't know. I have no idea what Deshaun Watson's going to look like. I assume he'll look pretty good because the Texans are a pretty bad football team. And DPJ's been a pretty good receiver. He should get at least 1 or 2 more catches with Watson in there, you would expect. If Njoku plays, we'll see how much they use him. He doesn't seem to be a huge part of their passing game, even though they throw the ball a lot. That was a great catch that he made, but like that's the only catch we've seen with him in the red zone. They don't seem to throw him the ball down there, Jimmy. That kind of stuff I don't understand. Maybe that will change. Maybe that's not a Stefanski thing. I don't know. We're gonna find out. But this is a great betting week. Bet your money on the Browns. Davis Mills, Kyle Allen. I don't think it matters, Jimmy. Houston's going to be looking for a new quarterback, and that's our first bad QB team.
And Houston is going to really control the draft, as they're probably going to have. They may very well have the number 1 overall, plus somewhere around number 20. And I just think the top of the draft is going to be crazy because there are a lot of quarterback needy teams with 4 or 5 really good quarterbacks, potential good quarterbacks coming out. So Houston will have a chance to kind of get a little bit of control of what happens in the first round with a team that I'm going to talk about later when we get there with some things they're doing as well. But yeah, absolutely. Davis Mills had his chance and just kind of regressed from a decent play early in the year. And the Texans are definitely a team that will be looking for a quarterback next year.
9-1. They're in. I can't imagine they're going to get 2 or 3 more wins to not have the 1 seed. So they're going to have their pick of who's out there. I have no idea who the quarterbacks are in college football. I watched the one college football game that I watch every year, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. So let's talk about the football game that we saw last night, because the Buffalo Bills beat the New England Patriots pretty handily. The Buffalo covered the spread. They did not hit the over-under, or they hit the under. New England, Jimmy, I think they're a bad QB team. I don't think Mac Jones 100%. Is very good because they were down 2 scores in the fourth quarter and they wouldn't let him throw the ball downfield. Probably because they were worried Mac Jones was going to throw an interception.
Yeah, because he would have thrown an interception because he's not very good.
I liked Buffalo last night. I thought the over would hit because I thought New England's offense would look a little better, but they just Mac Jones is yelling at his coaches on the sidelines. I don't know. None of that looks good. Who would have thought, Jimmy, hiring two non-offensive coaches to run your offense might not have been the best idea? Who knew?
Yeah, big surprise. Big shock there. A lot of the sharps were on New England in this one. The Bills roller coaster was at the top instead of the bottom this week. Josh Allen made some great throws, and Josh Allen also made some throws that should have been intercepted that were not intercepted. I think the Buffalo Bills' success this year, there's going to have to be a little bit of reining in Josh Allen doing his best Joe Burrow, fuck it, Jamar Chase is down there somewhere impression and just throwing balls into triple coverage in the middle of the field. I don't know if Josh Allen would do that in a seriously important football game that he didn't think he had control of, but it's still a bad tendency to get into. But yeah, I mean, the Patriots, it looks like the Patriots dynasty is just about over.
No, man, they're going to restart it. They're going to get Tom Brady back. Didn't you hear the news?
That's not going to help because the team he's on is also having bad quarterback play. So
that was one I looked at for a minute, and I was like, yeah, we got to ask the question, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, but I think the Patriots need a quarterback. They have some really impressive pieces, but they need an offensive coordinator and a quarterback, and probably a wide receiver, and maybe running back.
Looking at the rest of the NFL schedule for Sunday, the Atlanta Falcons are home against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and my eyes are deceiving me here, Jimmy, because this game, Atlanta was favored by a point, and now Pittsburgh is favored by a point. The over-under is 42.5. The money line minus 115 for Pittsburgh, minus 105 for Atlanta. I think this is where we get our final answer on if the league has figured out the Atlanta Falcons, Jimmy, because this Pittsburgh defense looks a lot better with TJ Watt back, and I think they're going to be able to shut down everything that Atlanta wants to do and force them to do some things they don't. I don't think Marcus Mariota is going to be able to do those things.
Yeah, I mean, the Atlanta offense, not that it was good to start, but it seems extra challenged without Cordero Patterson. I think the league has kind of already figured them out. I believe Atlanta is 1-5 against the spread in their last 6. And when Pittsburgh isn't playing the Eagles or the Bills, their defense has given up less than 20 points a game in the last month and a half. I love the under here, and I love the Steelers here. I think Pittsburgh rolls in this one. They're trying to find out whether they have shitty QB play or not, but I don't think it matters. I think they'll be able to do enough to get a win.
I like the Steelers. I like the under. Kenny Pickett showed some life last week, but he's also at times looked like he doesn't know how to throw a football.
Yeah,
And I don't know what to make of that other than he's just not used to playing against this level of talent this
yep.
frequently. Just every single week you're going up against the best defense you played in college, except they're even better than that.
But to be fair to Kenny Pickett, he has not had enough reps for us to fairly classify him as shitty QB play just yet. But if you think about that, though, I mean, the first two games we talk about, you've got the Steelers who just drafted a quarterback who don't know if he's any good. The Browns are committed to Deshaun Watson, whether he's good or not, because of the contract. And then the other two teams have shitty QB play who need a new quarterback.
Ouch. Ouch. Is that our lead into the Baltimore Denver game?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is.
Ouch. All right, we're gonna talk Brian Flores at some point. I'm gonna set that aside because you just jumped us right into the pool, man. Lamar Jackson hosting Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
9.5-point favorites are the Baltimore Ravens. Over under is 39.5, which tells you a lot about what we're going to talk about next. Minus 400 for the Ravens, plus 330 for the Broncos. I love the Baltimore Ravens as a concept, but in this reality, I don't trust them to beat anybody by 8. That said, I don't trust Russell Wilson to stay within 8 points of anybody. That Denver defense keeps him in games. I expect Baltimore to win this game, but I don't know, man. Like, can either of these teams score enough or can Baltimore possibly score enough to cover that 8?
Well, yeah, I mean, scoring points hasn't been Baltimore's problem. It's looked ugly and disjointed at times, but they've still been scoring points. The problem has been holding on to the leads. But whatever is broken about the Baltimore Ravens, their head coach and their quarterback in Denver are not good enough to exploit it. So I'll take the Ravens even at the 9.5 here because Denver is by far one of the 3 worst teams in the league. They're going to lose again. I don't know what the hell they do at quarterback. I mean, I don't like. It is a hell of a situation to be in. I don't know if you start trying to find trade partners for the I don't know what you do. I just don't know.
I don't think there is anything they can do. They just have to. I guess what I'm trying to wrap my head around here is, are they just going to blame all of this on Nathaniel Hackett and get Russell Wilson whatever coach he wants and just ride it back next year? Because that's what it looks like they're gonna talk themselves into. They're just gonna make Hackett the fall guy, which, I mean, plenty of this lays at his feet because he's a bad coach.
Yeah, I mean that's fair, and I guess Russell Wilson deserves that. I guess he deserves that opportunity. He's just looked so bad. He has no control.
But does he? Team. The decline of Russell Wilson has been going on for like 4 years now.
Oh, I don't disagree with you, but I think the concept of Russell Wilson that they paid all this money for means you blame Hackett for everything and you give Russell another year to make it right. And I hate that Baltimore gets Denver in this spot because they have looked disjointed. They've looked a little broken. And I fear they're going to get a get-right game before the Browns, and that frustrates me. But, yeah, the Ravens are playing sloppy, ugly football, and they're still probably going to win the AFC North. But Lamar, I understand Lamar Jackson betting on himself. I don't understand Lamar Jackson not taking the contract that was apparently offered. I wonder if he watches the tape and realizes how different he is playing. if he can see it and recognize it, because he is playing like a quarterback who is trying to not get hurt on the football field, which is completely different than how he's played and been successful. And I don't know what the hell the Baltimore Ravens are going to do with Lamar Jackson in the contract situation. It's, I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be.
I mean, they're going to pay him a shitload of money, and he's going to be their quarterback for the foreseeable future. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, but they tried to pay him what they felt was a shitload of money, and he refused it. And all reports out of Baltimore's camp and everybody involved with the team is they're never going to offer him more guaranteed money than Watson got. They're never going to offer him more guaranteed money than what they've already offered him. And according to all reports from Lamar's side is Lamar's not going to sign a contract for less guaranteed money than what Deshaun Watson got.
And I mean, he should. He's taken a team just as far into the playoffs, and he's won an MVP. Yeah, and he wasn't suspended for 11 games for sexually assaulting a bunch of massage therapists. There's been a lot of talk after the Browns signed Deshaun Watson to that contract that the other owners were bristling because they do not want to establish the concept of guaranteed contracts. And this would be a big jump. But if you're Lamar Jackson and they franchise tag you, okay. So what? You franchise tagged me. Now you're going to have to franchise tag me again next year, or you're going to have to sign me to the deal I want. Because look, I saw what Kirk Cousins has done. Why shouldn't Lamar Jackson think he can go that route, make just as much money, and wind up in the best situation that he wants to be in?
Well, I would say I think that's the route it will end up going by everything I've read and I've heard. I don't think good, well-run organizations like the Baltimore Ravens are ever going to give out that kind of fully guaranteed contract to a quarterback. I just don't believe it. I really don't. I mean, I know the league has changed immensely. Like, I get that part of it. But this is an organization that won a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer because they built such a good team. I don't think you're going to convince that same front office that you have to give a quarterback $300 million guaranteed to be successful. I don't think an organization like Baltimore can be convinced of that. But how do you let Lamar Jackson, a generational talent, walk out the door? Like, I'm so intrigued by this situation. But I feel like a window that I thought was open for the Ravens this year might be closed simply because Lamar Jackson is playing completely differently than I've seen him play in the past, in my opinion, because he's afraid of getting hit while not under contract.
I think missing Rashard Bateman is definitely a part of it too.
Yeah,
he adds. They don't have anybody to really stretch the ball down the field in consistently, which is for Lamar Jackson to open up those running lanes and for that Ravens running attack to work. There's got to be the threat of downfield passing, and if you don't have receivers that can get open, that you just take that away. You can scrunch the field on these guys, and like we've seen it a million times. You have to be able to get the ball down the field, or at least have to be able to get those 10 to 20 yard completions. That really seems to be where it's at. If you can get completions in that zone, it's enough to pull the safeties and the linebackers back to give you the numbers you need up front.
Yeah, and Mark Andrews has been banged up this year, not quite as good as he was last year. And I think myself and the Baltimore Ravens were expecting J.K. Dobbins to make a big jump that he wasn't able to make before getting hurt again. So there are things going on there, but I'm just like, I'm very intrigued. I'm very intrigued by this Ravens team. I think if you can't beat this Broncos team by 10 points, you've got some serious issues that may even go as far up as the head coach.
Wow. Harbaugh would get hired in an instant, wouldn't he?
Yes.
Somebody else would pick him up immediately.
Yes, 100%.
That would be a ballsy move. It's the classic thing. Okay, you don't like the guy you got, but who are you replacing him with?
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to go find somebody that's better than Harbaugh.
Yeah, but sometimes it's not about better. Sometimes it's about different.
All right. I, I if I'm a Browns fan, I applaud that decision.
I like it.
Like, how else would a Browns fan look at that? Like, you're getting Harbaugh out of the division. Thank you, and you're gonna ride this whole. We're gonna franchise tag our quarterback because we're gonna take a stand on guaranteed money and end up paying him more guaranteed money in the next 3 years than we would if we just signed him to the guaranteed contract. Like, that's how this is gonna play out. Like, that's how these things play out because everybody's trying to draw lines in the sand. We'll talk about Kyler Murray at some point, but there's a great example of how that can go wrong.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But
Next,
I think Harbaugh has been an excellent coach with dealing through some pretty bad injury situations on his teams the last few years. But most head coaches in the league would not get the little level of criticism that Harbaugh has gotten for the way they've blown leads, lost games, and almost lost games this year.
it seems everybody expects Baltimore to go on a run against this weak slate of teams late in the season. And maybe they do. I mean, they should.
They should.
I don't know what to make of this next game, Jimmy, because Green Bay is traveling to Chicago to take on the Bears. The Packers are 3-point favorites. The Packers are now 3.5-point favorites. The over-under sits at 42.5. Rodgers is reportedly going to play. It looks like Fields might be back for this game too. I would wait until you find out who the fuck is playing in this game before you place any bets, but this is normally a winner if you bet on Rodgers to cover against Chicago. He's owned them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Packers have the better roster. The Packers have a better coach. I'm taking the Packers here. I don't think Justin Fields is going to play because I think the Bears are a team who do have their quarterback. And Justin Fields, I think he's shown enough of that. The Packers, I don't know what the hell they've got at quarterback. But I also think the Bears are going to play Andy Dalton as much as they can because I think they're sideways tanking for the rest of the year.
They don't have Andy Dalton.
Isn't Dalton?
No, Dalton's in New Orleans.
Oh yeah, who the hell's been playing quarterback? Who was it?
Dude, I have no idea who's been playing quarterback for the Chicago Bears. Like, I don't have a fucking clue. I'm gonna look it up.
But I think the Bears are sideways tanking because I think it would be very valuable.
All right, so it doesn't matter because Justin Fields, a full participant in practice, should be set to start against the Packers.
Yeah,
he's gonna get hurt again. Like, this is like, what are you doing, Chicago?
Well, they're trying to not win very many games so they can be somewhere around the top 5 in the draft.
Then why are they playing him? Then let Nathan Peterman play, and you can lose games and get a better draft pick.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happens because I think it would be very powerful for them to be somewhere around the top 5 in the draft and not need a quarterback with so many quarterback needy teams. So I wouldn't be surprised. I completely forgot that Peterman started last week.
Well, he's very forgettable.
Very, very, very.
The Green Bay situation, it's they're basically in the same situation that Denver's in. They paid a shitload of money to a quarterback, and they're stuck with him.
Yep.
And they don't. At least Denver. I think Denver's situation is actually better than Green Bay's because I think the Denver roster's better. I think that defense is better. I think the weapons are better.
I still like your Aaron Rodgers for Russell Wilson trade.
That would be fabulous. That would be the type of NFL trade that would just break the internet.
No, yeah, I mean Green Bay. I can't believe they don't. I mean, I get mathematically they're not, but I can't believe they don't feel like they've already been eliminated. And what is this team going to do if they do sneak in as the last team in the playoffs? Rodgers should be sitting and Love should be playing so they can find out whether or not they have shitty QB play. And if they need it.
I think he's waiting for them to lose one more game. That'll knock them under 500 guaranteed for the season, and then he'll probably shut it down.
Well, yeah, that's
or he'll just be an asshole and just play out the rest of the games so that the Packers have no idea what to do with Jordan Love.
No, he can always go back on his word, but he said, I'm going to play through these injuries until we're mathematically eliminated, and then when we're mathematically eliminated, I'll shut it down and we'll get healthy and see what's going on.
Well, with how bad the NFC is, mathematically eliminated might be another 5 weeks.
You're not wrong, which is why I think it's a horrible thing for the organization to let happen. But we'll see. We'll see what goes from there. But I still agree with your legacy bet. Take the Packers against the Bears. It's only 3.5. Even with Jordan Love and broken Aaron Rodgers, they should be able to cover that.
Our next game is another that has moved a full 2 points. When I checked the lines on Wednesday, it was Jacksonville favored by 1. Now Detroit's favored by 1. Detroit's home. 51.5 is the over-under. Detroit, another team. They got Jared Goff. They're going to be looking to move on from him in the offseason, or at least bring in his replacement and just, be shitty for another year with Jared Goff, I guess.
Yep.
I'm really surprised. I like Jacksonville when they were favored by 1, so I obviously like them getting a point. There's always like 2 or 3 teams on the fringe of the playoffs that go on a little run around this time of the season, and it looks like Jacksonville's going to be one of those teams.
Oh, I agree. I don't understand this. I think Jacksonville is a significantly better team than the Lions. Now, the Lions are at home. Jared Goff has played well in that dome. I love the over here. I think there'll be a lot of points scored, but I do think Jacksonville will get this win.
Another game that features bad QBs. And we may be being a little broad with our bad QB terms, but we feature the Minnesota Vikings against the New York Jets. The Vikings are 3-point favorites. The over-under is 45.5. We'll see if Michael White can be more than a one-game wonder every year. And nobody trusts Kirk Cousins in the playoffs. Everybody's getting ready to bet against him. Minnesota's not going to move on from Kirk Cousins. We'll see what the Jets end up doing, but they're definitely not going to. I can't imagine they bring back Zach Wilson. That seems to be in the cards eventually. Like, they didn't rule that out. I don't see how that's going to work. They just look like they lost total faith in him, and with good reason. But even with all of that madness, I like the Jets. I like their defense.
It's so hard to not look ahead to the playoff game we know Kirk Cousins is going to lose. And then project that backwards on the rest of the regular season. I'm taking the Vikings here. It's still regular season Kirk Cousins. This isn't a primetime game. I think the Vikings are a better team. The Vikings, I think they truthfully believe they are one of the 2 best teams in the NFC. And I think they're going to keep winning games against teams like the Jets that they should beat. Now, they've been playing a lot of close games. I don't think this one's going to be quite so close. I think the Vikings will get this one by a touchdown. But I am going to take the Vikings here. I think I like the under as well. I don't think this is going to be a real high-scoring one.
Agreed.
But I like the Vikings here. I think the Jets are going to flounder a little bit. Mike White might still be good, but I don't think it's going to be good enough to get a victory here against Minnesota.
In all honesty, this is probably a field goal game. That's what I think it is. I wouldn't bet this game because I think that's the perfect line.
Yeah.
Our next matchup features bad QBs. The Washington Commanders are going to New Jersey to play the New York Giants. The Armada are 2-point favorites. Over-under sits at 40.5, minus 130 for Washington, plus 114 for New York. Are the New York Giants on the edge of a cliff and about to fall off?
Yeah. I don't know if this will be fully over the edge, but this will get them like the old cartoons where they peel one finger off of at a time while you're hanging onto the cliff. I think they're going to lose 1 or 2 fingers here. I think the Commanders are a better team. Brian Dable is doing a good job, but Ron Rivera is doing a hell of a job too. I like Heineke more than I like Daniel Jones. I think as long as you contain Saquon, like Saquon's going to get his to a point, but you just can't let him go like full Josh Jacobs on
And you
you.
can't let him wreck the game.
Yeah, and I don't think Washington will let him do that. I like what the Commanders are doing. It's weird because it's got to be hard to build a game plan against them right now because they're not featuring any one player or one thing. They're just kind of all over the place, and it's working for them. And it's crazy for me to think that Washington's going to beat New York and be very close to a playoff spot. It's weird, but I got to go with the Armada here.
I'm with you. Agree across the board. 5 covers in a row for the Heineke Commanders.
Yep.
5. And I've been on the last 4 because you talked me into going with Heineke. So thank you to you, sir. I hope the rest of you took Jimmy's advice on that one because that has just been a winner. And it's going to be a winner this weekend too, I think, because
Yep.
I think the Giants have been figured out. I think they're in that same spot Atlanta is, where they were doing the gimmicky thing, running with the quarterback. And I think teams have just seen it enough. They've made the right adjustments. They see it a lot in college, so it's not something that's new to them. And the better defenses seem to be able to just gobble a lot of this stuff up.
Yep. I think that also comes back to something you've hinted at and talked about. You know, Daniel Jones is okay at throwing a football. He's okay at running with a football. But teams are building their defenses to stop Josh Allen from doing those things.
Yeah, and he's a lot better at all of those things than Daniel Jones is.
So we should be able to stop Daniel Jones from doing it because we're trying to build a team that can stop the quality of Josh Allen. So I think that defensive game plan strategy is, starting to come into play later in the season where teams are like, okay, we know how to stop Josh Allen. We just don't have the ability to do it. We do have the ability to stop Daniel Jones from doing it.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Our next matchup features a guy that is trying to carve out his own little niche as a quarterback is in Jalen Hurts. The Philadelphia Eagles are home for the Tennessee Titans. Eagles 5.5 point favorites. 44.5 is the over under. Plus 180 for the Titans. Minus 215 for the Eagles. This just seems like too many points.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. It is now 4.5. Eagles 4.5. So yeah, I think that's about perfect at 4.5. The 5.5, I loved Tennessee. I still like Tennessee at 4.5. What do you say, Jimmy?
Well, Titans let me down last week.
Yeah, me too. Fuckers.
And this week, I am all in on the Eagles winning this game by at least a touchdown. I think they've got the defense that can slow down the things the Titans like to do on offense. And I guess you qualify this as a revenge game. But when the self-proclaimed greatest wide receiver in Tennessee Titan history gets to play a game against the Tennessee Titans with a phenomenal quarterback with the season he's having, I think A.J. Brown is going to eat this week, bud. I think this is going to be like a Randy Moss-like game. I think it's going to be incredible. I think the Eagles are going to get up big. I think Tennessee will fight back, but I think the Eagles are going to cover this. I think they win this by a touchdown.
Wow, we disagree again. It hasn't happened much. I like it when it does, especially in these bigger games.
Oh, yeah.
They're good benchmarks.
Yep.
Because Philadelphia is very beat up right now.
Yeah.
They're having trouble stopping the run. That's never good when you have Derrick Henry coming to town. What I do like in this game is the under, because I think both teams like to run. That's going to burn clock, limit possessions. Or you're going to get one of those games where like both teams punt 10 times.
Right.
And again, you're just not going to get a lot of points. But Tennessee is one of those teams that I'm surprised didn't upgrade their quarterback position last offseason. I guess they did by drafting the young man who doesn't look like he knows how to throw a football. He looks like a really good runner.
Yeah.
But he looked way too much like Cardale Jones when it came to trying to throw the football within an offense. He looked like he was completely baffled by the defensive looks that they were giving him and that they could disguise coverages and really get him off his throws. And you're just not going to survive long in the league right now because you said it. Like, it's Josh Allen. It's Patrick Mahomes. Like, if you blink for a second with those guys, it's a touchdown. So when you're playing somebody that's 80% of that guy that you're constantly on alert for, now all of a sudden, oh, this is a lot more fun. I can play against this guy.
Yep.
He had those 3 just horrible interceptions in the playoffs last year. He's a guy that I can't wait to bet against in the playoffs because he just always shits the bed in the big moments. He's just one of those guys apparently.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't think Ryan Tannehill is as good as Kirk Cousins.
No.
But the Titans have been successful with healthy Ryan Tannehill in the regular season. So I don't know what that front office does. I don't know if you just keep rolling Tannehill out there knowing at some point it's going to be Tannehill versus Burrow versus Herbert versus Allen versus Mahomes, and you're just not going to win that game. I don't know what you do because it's not like you can just grab that guy. But is that where you take a chance on somebody else, and if it doesn't work, now we've got a pretty good roster built and we can draft the next one of those guys? I don't know. I wouldn't keep putting Ryan Tannehill out there as my starting quarterback.
Ryan Tannehill is going to be a guy that tells us a lot about the quarterback market in the NFL. Because is some team just going to throw a shitload of money at him to make sure they get him? Because with how bad quarterback play has been across the league, if you're pretty much any team that doesn't think you have your quarterback of the future, you can look at Ryan Tannehill and say, all right, we'll draft a guy next year and we'll start Tannehill for a year and then we'll have a year to groom this guy and then he takes over. It's a natural progression.
Yeah, it feels like the Colts would be a spot for him.
Wow. The Colts, man, just the roulette wheel of fucking quarterback play.
Yep.
Next up, we have the Seattle Seahawks. They're traveling to LA to take on the Rams. They are 7-point favorites. This was 8 on Wednesday. The over-under sits at 41, minus 325 for Seattle, plus 270 for the Rams. The Rams are just, shitty, apparently.
Yeah, they've had bad injuries at bad spots. I don't know what they're trying to do. Normally I would say go ahead and fold it in the season, but when you don't have any first-round draft picks, it's not the best idea. You've got to keep trying to win with what you got, I don't know how that's going to go.
Just keep looking at that Super Bowl trophy.
Yeah, I'm taking Seattle here, but I wouldn't. This isn't a game I would bet on because there's just too many variables. I don't know. Sean McVay might be watching the tape from last week, and he might run the ball 82 times. I don't know. I just don't know.
I'm adding this with Baltimore to the Cleveland 3-team tease.
Really?
Yeah, I think Seattle's going to win this game. I don't think they cover, or I guess I should say I don't know if they'll cover. I think that's pretty well placed because they should be able to win this game by a touchdown. But being able to tease it down to a 1-point game, that's the way to do it. Seattle's going to win this game, man. They got to keep pace with the 49ers. LA's not. They're just not good.
No.
They're just not a very good football team.
No, but bad Geno. Bad Geno's. He starts to pop up.
I know. And there's another guy that's going to set the quarterback market. You're going to have Geno Smith and Jacoby Brissett, and we're just going to wait for somebody to throw that Timothy Mozgov deal that the Lakers threw out there. That was the second they signed it, everybody was like, "Wait, what? You signed him for how much money? That's not very smart. That seems like a lot of money in a lot of years for a guy that you're probably going to not want to be your starting quarterback halfway through next season."
Yeah,
I hope
I
Gino
hope.
doesn't turn back into a pumpkin, by the way. I'm kind of rooting for him
Yeah,
because the league has gotten pretty top heavy, and it would be nice, at least in terms of quarterback play, it's gotten real top heavy. So a lot of these teams are just struggling to keep up, and that's only going to make. I guess the question that I'm trying to get an answer to is: are teams going to continue throwing money at average quarterbacks that they know are average or below average? Because they've done it for years.
yes.
I agree.
Like I think teams get fooled into believing that their system and their coaches and their roster can make this quarterback do better than average.
Well, one team that has made their quarterback better than average is the Miami Dolphins and Mike McDaniel. They've done a hell of a job. They're playing, feels like the East Coast and West Coast versions of the same team are playing each other in the
Yep.
grudge match between Shanahan and McDaniel, even though it's not a grudge match. San Francisco's home. They're 4-point favorites. 46.5 is the over under. This is the unstoppable force that is the Miami offense, with Tua meeting the immovable object that is the San Francisco defense. Dolphins left tackle is out. That's not great against the San Francisco
No,
front.
not great.
Uh, I'm done. I'm waving the white flag on Tua. I don't know what it is. He throws with really. He must just throw with great anticipation because nothing about watching him throw a football tells me that he should be this good, but he just gets these guys the ball in open spaces. I know a lot of it's scheme, but he doesn't make nearly the mistakes that Jimmy Garoppolo does. And I think these teams are basically the same, with San Francisco's defense being a little better. I guess I like the Dolphins here, Jimmy, but mostly I just want to grab my popcorn because this should be a great game.
Yeah, this is an absolute marquee matchup of the week. We got another one coming up to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
but this is a big one for me. I don't. I'm not as hesitant as you are. I'm bullish on the Dolphins in this game simply
Wow.
because simply because whether guys like Chris Broussard like it or not, this is one of those games where the San Francisco 49ers are going to have one or two drives where Jimmy Garoppolo has to make a play, and I know Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to make that play. That's just what we know. I don't know for sure yet if Tua is the guy that can make that play, but I know with Debo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk in the past, Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't been able to make that play, and I don't feel like a banged up Christian McCaffrey makes it all the better. So I'm taking the Dolphins here. I'm taking Tua. I agree with you. Tua is, said, man, I sucked last year, and he's on a redemption tour. He's playing really well. I like what the Dolphins are doing. They're hot, and I think they're going to stay hot and win this game outright.
Wow. You like that plus 170 on the money line?
I love it.
I like the under on this one. I feel a lot more confident in my Dolphins pick. And I just want to make one more quick mention about how we were talking about bad QBs and Jimmy Garoppolo. Somebody's going to give Jimmy Garoppolo like 2 years, $70, $80 million in the offseason.
Stop it.
He's going to be a free agent, and that deal is going to be out there for him. Somebody's going to give him that deal. I don't know who it's going to be. Is it the Jets? Is that what we
Maybe.
think? Is that what we think? The Jets
Maybe.
just throw a big contract at him to make sure they get him?
That maybe,
Indianapolis,
Giants.
possibly? Tennessee?
But
Give Malik another year?
are we sure the 49ers? Are we sure the 49ers are going to let him out
Is
of
it
the
the
building?
49ers?
Are we I'm not sure the 49ers are going to let him out of the building. I'm not sure.
Well, we won't have an answer to that question until we get to the playoffs, because this is the time of year where Jimmy Garoppolo looks his best, and then 2 months from now it's going to be the fourth quarter of a playoff game, and he's going to just throw a horrific interception, And everybody's going to go, oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Can't stick with that guy. He's fine. You can go. You may go.
Yeah, and they spent a lot of draft capital on Trey Lance. So you're probably going to, yeah. Oh, man. Ugh. Whew. This quarterback roulette wheel is going to be crazy at the end of this season.
Yeah, and well, two teams that are going to be on the sidelines watching all of this chaos unfold are the Kansas City Chiefs and the Cincinnati Bengals. They're in pretty good shape when it comes to their quarterback position. The Chiefs are traveling to Ohio. They are 2-point favorites on the road. 53 is the over/under, minus 135 on the Chiefs, plus 115 for the Bengals. The Bengals have looked significantly better of late. It looks like they're going to get Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon back for this game. That gives them their full complement of weapons on offense. This is another one to grab your popcorn for. Jimmy, can the Chiefs get their revenge from losing to the Bengals last year in the AFC title game?
The Bengals can get everybody back. They can bring Ickey Woods back. They can bring them all back. If there is a lock of the season...
Little Carl Pickens.
Little Carl Pickens. Dude, if there is a lock of the season, it is the Chiefs winning this football game.
That's what has me worried about this, because I think the same way. I expect this game to be close, but I expect Kansas City to win by... Really what I expect to happen is Patrick Mahomes going to score a touchdown to win this game in the fourth quarter. That's what I expect to happen.
Why would we not expect that? No, I love it. I love it at 2 because I think they win at least by a field goal. So
it's a good number.
It's a great number.
I like the over too.
The over. Hammer the over. I think the Chiefs have a defensive roster that will let them get after Cincinnati the same way Cleveland did. And we know, Burrow doesn't look good in those situations. No, it does help him when Chase is out there. But I think that this is a game that Andy Reid has had circled on the calendar. They're going to be ready for this game. They're going to win this game. I believe the AFC rolls through Arrowhead, and I don't think anybody's going to stop it this year. I think the Chiefs are going back to the Super Bowl, and I think this is a huge statement win they're about to put up Sunday afternoon.
Wow, you are super confident in the Chiefs. I'm not quite that confident, but they just look really good. And I keep trying to think, all right, can they really go 14-2? Because that's what it's going to take to get the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Because Miami or Buffalo, I think, has a really good chance of winning out, because both of those teams are just good. And they don't, other than the game they have against each other, which will pretty much decide that division.
Yep.
I don't know what the fuck to do with the quarterbacks of either of these two teams that we're coming up to next, with the LA Chargers traveling to Vegas to take on the Raiders. The Chargers are now 1-point favorites. They were 2-point favorites on Wednesday. The over-under sits at 49.5. This has also dropped a full point. The money line is even on the Chargers, minus 115 for Vegas. The rumors of Derek Carr being traded are starting to pop up again. And Justin Herbert looks like a really good quarterback, except where it matters most on the scoreboard. So what should our listeners do with these two teams that just seem to find ways to fuck things up?
Yeah, I think the Raiders are going to have a letdown after that super awesome, super emotional win last week. You don't get to see walk-off 60-yard runs for touchdowns very often in the NFL to win games. That was pretty cool, but I think they're going to have a letdown. And I think the Chargers are still scraping and battling, trying to make the playoffs. So despite Brandon Staley's best efforts, I think the Chargers will win this game.
Browns fans will be rooting for Vegas a lot, because LA is one of the teams they need to lose some games if they have any hope of climbing back in the playoffs. This is like another one of those games where I'm taking the Chargers because, Vegas is coming off 2 overtime wins. I don't want any part of money on this game because Like we use it as a verb here. They're just going to find a way to charger it up, and I'm not going through that roller coaster. I'm not dealing with it. Not for those odds. You can find better bets.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with such a full slate. With I think we only have 2 teams on a bye this week. There's better games, better opportunities to make money, but we pick them all for you here just in case you want the full slate parlay. So, but yeah, I'm with you on the Chargers on this one.
Hold on 1 second. Who else is on the bye besides Arizona?
Carolina.
Carolina. Okay.
So they get spared. They get spared from the shitty QB play talk.
No, they do not. Both those teams have shitty quarterbacks. They have bad quarterback situations. Carolina can't possibly think that they've seen enough from PJ Walker to say that's the guy moving forward. They're not gonna. Oh my god. Are they gonna win like 2 or 3 games down the stretch and talk themselves into keeping Sam Darnold for another year to give PJ some more seasoning?
Well, I think it probably depends who you bring in as head coach.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. I mean, they're just as likely to end the season with, 6 wins.
Yeah, so exactly.
None of this may all just be a moot point anyway.
Yeah.
The more interesting one
is if they're in that top 5 draft pick range, they'll be looking quarterback.
And we've talked all season about the Arizona Cardinals situation. They just gave Kyler Murray a shitload of money. They gave the GM a shitload of money. They gave Cliff Kingsbury a shitload of money. And now none of it seems to be working because more reports, Patrick Peterson just said Kyler Murray's out for Kyler Murray. He doesn't seem to want to do the work. And that is something that seems to plague him. He doesn't it doesn't seem like he fully grasps that if he really learns how to run an offense instead of trying to just read what the defense is doing and then reacting, if he can get into an anticipation sort of game, how much it could open things up for him and that team. But he just doesn't seem to want to do it. So I don't know what the fuck they're going to do. They're stuck with him, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, they're in a rough spot, and it kind of, when the homework clause came out in the contract and Arizona got crucified for it, saying it was, crossing a line or whatever, and then a well-respected player like Patrick Peterson comes out and says what he says, you put those 2 things together, and it makes you think that, Kyler Murray is probably out for Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray probably doesn't hit the books as much as he needs to, because why do I need to know the playbook when I'm just going to run around like I stole my parents' iPhone and see what happens on the field? Like, they're in such a bad spot. So much money to 3 people that probably didn't deserve it. Good luck, Cardinals. I don't know.
Well, we mentioned them earlier because they have a bad QB situation, and that's the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
They're traveling on the road to face the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys 10.5-point home favorites. 44.5 is the over-under, plus 390 for the Colts, minus 500 for the Cowboys. This is another one of those games that I'll take the Cowboys and lay the points, but I'm not betting that. I'm just throwing them in the 7-team tees, or the 4-team 7-point tees. I just tease them up, baby. I think the Cowboys are rolling. I love what that defense is going to do against Matt Ryan because Jeff Saturday doesn't look like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, to make that statement after the game that you didn't think time was of the essence, you didn't need to call the timeout.
It was as comical as his introductory press conference.
Yeah, it just makes me believe that you don't realize how hard this is and how incredible of an opportunity you were given. And then to make a statement like that shows that you don't recognize the gravitas of the situation. And I hope the Cowboys beat you by 4 touchdowns.
wrapping up our week, we have a matchup of two teams that will likely have different quarterbacks next year. The
Hey,
New Orleans Saints. Oh, what you got, Jimmy?
can they flex this to like Tuesday morning so nobody has to watch it?
Yeah, then we can watch a World Cup game instead. The Buccaneers are 3.5-point home favorites. The over/under sits at 40. We know the Saints are going to be looking for a new quarterback because, I mean, if they thought Jameis was the answer, he'd be playing right now, wouldn't he?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on there in
I
New
mean,
Orleans.
Andy Dalton's not good. He's been Andy Dalton.
Nope. Nope. Andy Dalton is, and no disrespect to him because he's been doing exactly what Andy Dalton is gonna do. But yeah, it's still weird to me. I don't understand the Jameis situation. He seemed to have turned a corner, and now we're back here with the Saints. But their roster seems to be a little broken. Chris Olave does seem to be a superstar in the making if they get him a quarterback. But, man, the NFC South looks like it could be in bad shape for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, there's rumors of Brady going back to New England. He's going to be a free agent after this year, and he hasn't looked all that great. I was baffled that they didn't take a timeout on that last drive when it was the fourth quarter. It was under 2 minutes, and you expected Tom Brady to drive down the field on the Browns defense and score a touchdown. Like that's what we all thought was going to happen, that they were going to win the game.
Yep.
And then they got that big play, and then 27 seconds later, they're snapping the ball again. You're like, you got timeouts, dog. I don't know what Todd Bowles was doing. I don't know what Tom Brady was doing. That was very weird. Brady and Mike Evans, every week, because I have Mike Evans on my fantasy team, I see all of his targets online. I find them, and they're not on the same page, man. They have no rhythm as a partnership. Like, it just doesn't work very good. I don't know what the reason for that is.
No, I mean, for me, I'm going back to the statement I made earlier this year about where I felt Brady was struggling. I don't think he's over what's going on in his personal life. I think he's having trouble because he's got to focus on other shit than just football, and he's never had to do that in his adult life in the NFL, and I don't think he's handling it really well. To me, and it really, we've been forced to watch a lot of Tom Brady football in our adult lives. This was one of the few times where it looked like a Tom Brady-led offense was underprepared for the task at hand. I know Fournette banged up, not a big name running back in the backfield. That hasn't mattered for any team this year playing the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, that's because they have a bad offensive line.
The
Browns don't push anybody around, and they were pushing Tampa Bay around.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But I just felt like they just didn't seem like they knew where to attack the Cleveland Browns defense, and I was super happy about it. But it was still weird to me that a lot of the play calls just didn't seem right. Plays where I feel like in the past Brady would have audible to a hot he wasn't doing. They don't seem like they're synced up. And I don't think it's just him and Evans, just as an offense, they don't seem in sync and together. And they might still win the NFC South.
Oh, I think they are going to win the NFC South. I think they're going to win this game. I think it's going to be another ugly, ugly game where they win like 10-6.
Hey guys, we're taking the under, by the way.
Yeah, 40. They could. This over/under could be 30, and I'd probably still take the under. What was the game? Hold on 1 second. Where is it? With the other game that's kind of like this with the over/under, and we'll just immediately thinking the under was the Baltimore-Denver game, and that's at 38.5, and I'm more confident about this one than that one.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
the possibility that Lamar just goes for like 3 touchdowns by himself is out there. But in this game, I don't see how anybody's going to really go off and put points on the board.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Well, that's it. That's that's the Week 13 slate of games. The CBS has kind of buried the Deshaun Watson game on the list. It seems like everybody just wants to move on and play football. It's not going to be that way. He's going to keep getting hounded with questions. There's still 2 civil cases out there. So I guess we'll just see how this plays off. And he looked much better prepared this time when he talked to the press. Like, he actually studied and, had a pat answer for all of the questions he didn't want to answer. I don't know at what point those questions go away. I guess we're going to find out here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just all kind of icky, isn't it?
Yeah, because I don't know if it's like, I don't even know if it's fair for anyone to try to separate it. Like, it's going to hound him, but it's going to be worse if he doesn't play well and the Browns don't win football games. Like, that's the thing. Like,
yeah, they should go 4-2 in these last 6 weeks. I mean, Washington looks like a tougher game than you thought, but I mean, there's like if we're going to be honest about where this Cleveland Browns football team is, if you can't beat the Washington Commanders, then you're not a Super Bowl contender.
Oh, I agree. But with the defensive line and linebackers we have, we're not a Super Bowl contender. So
well, I agree with that.
So there is that part of it. But
is there? I was thinking about something before the podcast. We have all these teams that we've talked about throughout the whole week that have bad quarterbacks or are going to be looking for new quarterbacks or just have a quarterback that they signed to a shitload of money and they're stuck with. If any of these teams that have a bad quarterback improve, we expect them to be significantly better. The Browns have gotten good quarterback play, and they're 4-7. Are they going to find themselves, even with Deshaun Watson, maybe a little bit behind the tidal wave?
Yes. Yes, because with, not so much this year and even next year, because you'll get to roll a little bit of money over, but when you've got the Watson contract, the Chubb extension, the Garrett extension, eating up the majority of your payroll. Now, obviously, the payroll is going to go up, something that's going to continue to advance. But you're still kind of in a Green Bay Packers situation where a few players are eating up a bulk of your salary, and the Browns need to upgrade at a lot of positions. As you said last week, the offensive line is getting old really quick.
Oh, they're going to have to figure out what to do at left tackle. Jack Conklin, his contract's up, I believe.
Yep.
You have a center who's coming off, who you thought you found a center, and then he got hurt, and now I don't know what they're going to do there. But that's the least of their problems because they're going to need a new safety, maybe 2.
Yep.
Or do you just throw Johnson under the bus and think if you put somebody better back there with Delpit, that those two develop a good relationship and you get more out of Delpit? They're going to need to do something at linebacker, and the defensive line has been just a mess. Yep. They get a lot out of Garrett, and they get some out of Clowney, and the other guys are just, it seems like they don't show up unless they're playing a team with a really bad offensive line situation. And they're going to have to do something about that, and Clowney's going to be a free agent. So you have a lot of holes on the defensive side of the football where even if they make some moves to clear some cap space and push it farther, do the cap shenanigans to give yourself some more flexibility next year, man, you can only do that so many times, and they don't have the draft capital needed to replenish their talent base. So they don't have depth to fall back on because this team was so bad for so long.
Yeah, it's going to, like it or not, a lot of it is going to fall at the feet and fall on the shoulder of Deshaun Watson. Because how superb can you be? Like in the AFC, there's that clear 1-2 with Mahomes and Allen. Then I think Burrow right now has separated at 3. And then Herbert and Jackson are there at 4 and 5. Maybe Jackson's still a little bit ahead of Herbert, but it's there.
Well, if Allen doesn't get out of the second round of the playoffs again, why wouldn't Burrow be higher?
Right, and you could very well be right. Right, absolutely. But then Watson, you would hope, slots in there somewhere in that Lamar and Herbert range. But like you said, when talking about Justin Herbert, you can be really, really amazing as a quarterback, and it's still not equal wins in the NFL. So it is going to be like, for people outside of Cleveland, I talked a little bit about this last week. For people outside of Cleveland, they're not going to understand it. But if you go 1-3 against Houston, Baltimore, and Cincinnati, our sports talk in Cleveland is going to be call after call after call of put Jacoby Brissett back in.
There's already people making the case that they shouldn't even be going to Watson.
And I agree, and that's insane.
Yeah, it's totally insane. We said that before the season. You didn't go through this entire fucking escapade
to play Jacoby
Brissett. Like, people don't
right.
even fucking think anymore. It's like, I get it. You think that guy's been playing good, but Jacoby Brissett's been a lot of smoke and mirrors. He's put up some numbers in some games that they weren't really in.
Yeah.
He has been good. I'm not going to say he's been great. I know he's stabilized that position. Clearly, it was the right move to move off of Baker because he's been terrible this year. His confidence looks shot. When, probably for good reason. He got tossed aside by a team he won a playoff game for that hasn't won a fucking playoff game in 3 decades, and now he's the most hated person in this city.
Yep.
Like, it's very weird. It's very, very weird.
But I still believe within the next 2 or 3 years, like, I think of the quarterbacks that are a part of the shitty QB play group, I think Baker is most likely to have that Geno Smith kind of resurgence.
I think he'd be served well to back up somebody good. Can he be Casey Keenum behind Josh Allen? Be like literally 80% Josh Allen? Across the board.
Yeah, but I mean, I still think there's enough tape of what you need to do with Baker Mayfield at quarterback for your team to be successful, and I think at some point he'll get another chance to do that. But I agree with you. He looks the confidence looks shot, and it makes sense. But this is going to be, these next 3 weeks are going to be crucial to the Kevin Stefanski era of the Cleveland Browns. You've got 3 division games left and a couple very winnable, what should be very winnable games outside of your division games. They need to look good to figure out what the hell they need to actually acquire to make a deep playoff run next year.
I think that's a good way of looking at this. Man, like, what if they go 2-4? Is Stefanski get fired?
If Sean Payton's available, yeah.
I don't know if Sean Payton's going to come here, though.
I don't know. If a coach like Sean Payton looks at that roster, yeah, I can do something with that. If they go 2-4 and the offense sputters, and there's a coach like Sean Payton who we know, even when things are good, Andrew Berry will reach out to try to get better. If you make that call and Sean Payton looks at that roster and says, oh yeah, I can do something with that. I think Stefanski's gone.
Yeah, the Haslams wouldn't hesitate to throw Stefanski under the bus either.
Yeah.
I don't
And
think they would have any qualms with doing something like that.
Now, I don't know if there's another coach other than Sean Payton that I would do it for. Like, I'd have to really think about it, but off the top of my head, if Sean Payton says, yeah, give me Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Njoku, I'll take you to a Super Bowl, then it's not, you don't even question it.
They'd have to hold on to Bill Callahan.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the coach they need to hold on to.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Stump Mitchell does a great job with the running back group, but I mean, I think probably for most people like myself, the biggest problem with Stefanski is that Joe Woods and Mike Prefer are still on the staff.
Yeah, they've been bad.
Like, they've been
and they're
bad.
they're going to get these last couple of games to see if they deserve to be here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's a good place to wrap things up, I guess.
Yeah.
It's been we went a little long today because we were talking about bad quarterbacks, and there's a lot of them in the league.
There's
and
a lot
of teams, that'll just be looking to upgrade, and there's just, those guys just aren't out there. There just aren't that many of them, and it shows why the Browns are looking the other way when it comes to Watson.
Yep. Is it a Super Bowl win the only thing to justify what you've put the organization and the fan base through with this?
I don't know if I can answer that question in terms of morality, but like in terms of society, that's what the bar is.
Right.
That seems to be what the bar is for everybody. That if it brings us a Super Bowl, then that's fine.
Like,
that seems to be the general consensus. I don't agree with that consensus. I don't think a Super Bowl is worth.
Oh no, I didn't mean, bro. I mean,
I don't think it's worth the, like, I mean, besides all the stuff with the team, like, just on a personal level, it's just like, that's just bad to have on your soul, man.
Yeah, no, I'm full agree. Like, you and I are in full agreement. Like, the juju that you're bringing upon yourself with this, nothing is worth it. But I think from an overall thing, but, you know, like, if you get knocked out if you lose to the Bills in the second round of the playoffs the next 3 years, for what?
Which is very possible. I mean, the next 5 years of his contract, or what, this is year one. So this could be year one, he doesn't play until you're out of the playoffs. Year two, first or second round playoff loss to the Chiefs, Bills, or apparently Dolphins, who seem to be just an unstoppable machine now. Or even just second round losses, and maybe you make an AFC championship game and lose to either Kansas City or Buffalo. Or, you know, can you be that one team that sort of sneaks in like Cincinnati did last year? To do that, you got to have a lot of talent on both sides of the football. And right now, that defense seems to have a lot of talent. We hear about that talent, but I don't see it do anything on the field, so I question that talent.
Yeah.
They have found a player in that Emerson kid. He's good.
Yes.
He's real good.
Yes.
We'll see if he can keep up his play. This is normally the part where we start to see some of the first-year guys start to struggle with their conditioning. So if he can continue to finish strong, then you've found a guy that not only is playing at a very high level for what round he was drafted, but somebody that took it really seriously, took his conditioning really seriously, and was ready to play 17 right out the gate.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you for joining me, Jimmy. It's just going to be messy talking about Deshaun Watson the rest of the year. It just makes me feel kind of icky, but I thank you for helping me wade through these dark waters.
Yeah, I mean, it's Cleveland sports. It can't be anything but messy, bro.
Well, we thank you for listening and wading through the dark waters with us. For Jimmy Champ, I am Evan Belfiore. We'll see you next week right here on No Broken Legs.